Batteries, lithium batteries, the UN number, that's correct. Shipment name is correct. This is correct. Nothing wrong. Very good. Yeah, this one we can't see. I mean, there were pictures where you removed it a little bit, but yeah. The fiber box with batteries, lithium batteries. The only comment I have on this one was a little bit that if you have a fire in the shed, you have water to control it. Lithium batteries and water, they don't like each other so much, but you can, by spraying it, you can control it. This one, the pellet was covered by plastic, and of course if you have a fire in the beginning, the plastic is stopping the water from coming to the batteries, but as long when it's hot, the plastic will be gone and then you can extinguish it. This one was a little bit less good. UN number, that's okay, it was the right size I think. I didn't measure it exactly, but yeah. But then here, it's almost not readable. Packing group 3. DE, that is for Europe, that's for the tunnel categories, not relevant for you. The proper shipment name is there, and the class is there. So in principle the information is there. But if you go back to the, yeah, I would normally recommend this to be packed as an overpack. So you put one sticker on it with that information very clearly. Yes. Because now 50% was not readable, and you really had to take a very close look in order to find the information. Yeah, here you could not see it was dangerous goods. This itself was okay, but I would have put also the dangerous goods information with it. Another one. The UN number is clear. Flammable liquid NOS containing ethanol. Group 2 ADR, that's a bit odd, because packing group 2 is for all modes of transport. So the ADR doesn't make sense, but it's not wrong because it's behind the information. I don't see a flashpoint. I don't see whether it's marine pollutant, yes or no. But if I'm correct, this is not a marine pollutant, so then you don't have to mention it. This information is for the GHS, that's more for how to handle the commodity. But it gives you also the information so you can combine it to check whether what's written here, this is ethanol and isopropanol. Well, here it's only ethanol, so it's a little bit contradiction of each other. Yeah, on the same type of packaging, similar stickers, similar information, but again a little bit different. This pellet had a limited quantity sticker on it, but for the rest no information. But then again, we learned with limited quantities, you don't need to have the information. But yeah, if you have a problem with it, you need to have the documentation in order to find out whether you need to treat it as a class 3 or what else. Most probably non-dangerous cargo, but still, yeah, it's not what you like to see. And another one, yeah, but it was maybe coming from Australia, so they had it turned up or something like that. It was Sydney cargo, something like that. Yeah. This one, clearly class 3 labels, that's good. But this is recommended, yeah, that's too tight basically. There's not much you can do about it, but if you get it into your shed, if you get it out of a container, take a sharp look whether it's not leaking. I mean, a plastic drum you can play around a little bit, but this is a bit over the limit basically.
So also the UN coding for that, the form 1 was correctly checked.
big wooden box. Is it the unit load? Is it the large packing? Is it a, we don't know. It has a parcel label on it, but for the rest, yeah, I don't know. Is this a good description? No?
It's not.
But it's next to it. Yeah. Then around the corner you find this. This itself, it's strange to report it like this, but the tennis goods information there. But it is very clearly in 5.2 that the information should be next to each other. So you should have the label and then directly next to it should be this information. And preferably not like this, but okay. But this was on the other side of the package. Second thing, if you look at the size, could be very light, but if it's more than 500 kilograms, it should be on two sides the information. And that was also not the case. This one, arrows are right, on the top of this side up, that looked perfect.
Yes.
But partly because of this, some of the information is quite readable. So again, it would be better to put the information also at least on one side, on the outside of the plastic, so that you don't have to look for the information. But I can't say this is wrong, for sure not. I'm missing here the packing group. Yeah. If it's on the documentation, then at least you can check it. Corrosive. That itself is correct. The GHS information straight next to it, I'm not in favor of, but you see it quite often. Yeah, because then you get a little bit of contradiction sometimes. What does this mean? Do you know that? One? No. It means it's from the global harmonized system, so it's not the IMDG code, but it means you have the risk for cancer or something, long-term diseases.
And it's corrosive.
And it's corrosive.
These are the new labels for SDS after 2016 with the global harmonized system.
GHS.
Yeah, GHS plus SDS labels.
They are from the GHS.
Yeah.
But no. Yeah. Here, the UN number, corrosive. Whether this is exactly the right size, I didn't measure, but it's at least quite well readable.
Yes.
Yeah. So, for the rest, I was quite happy with this one. This one I'm going to take home and try to decipher it. There's a lot of information I don't understand.
Yeah. Doesn't
Yeah.
fit with the
You would expect that on the end you would have the stacking. Well, kilopascal, to my opinion, is a pressure. So I don't know what is this simply, but it is Schutz. And Schutz is a world famous producer of packages. So if I can't find it myself, I'll send them a message and say, "Okay, please explain what this is all about."
may I say something?
Of course.
At least it is okay up here in some part because 31 is for rigid IBCs, you know. We can see here the plastic inside, steel outside the cage. It's a composite plastic, composite IBC, rigid IBC. Packing group 2, it was okay. And Germany, Deutschland, and BAM is the certification company. But after that, we had to have, as Rob said, some things written in the IMDG code, the UN coding, should be stacking information, stowage on top, and for the capacity of the IBC. So he will work, and I will
find
work
out.
on it.
Yeah. Again, information over here, that's more out of the global harmonized system. But still you can combine it, you have here a technical name. But other one, flammable, 3. Nova ethanol natural. Well, that is a trade name, so
Yes.
must probably need something like ethanol, but
Yes.
that's not, it's not how it should be mentioned. As details, UN number, class, packing 2. Yeah. So yes, you have the information that you need, but it is not as it should be on the package. Yeah. Pine oil. I'm not sure if you've all seen those drums. That were this was the color of the drum, metal color. Coming from China? No? From Vietnam, I think. I'm not sure anymore. Anyhow, the description is here, the UN number is here, and I still have to check whether the UN number is correct, but I'm missing almost 50% of the information on this one. And if you look at the drums, so that they marked it on the outside, which is good. The only thing is they didn't mark the drums themselves. So the moment you remove the plastic, the drums are not marked anymore. So that's also not correct.
Yes.
Then I looked at the drums on top. Yeah, I didn't make a picture of it, but there's no UN marking on the drums. So whether the drums are tested, correct for this kind of product, I don't know.
The drums on the top were covered with the, stretch and some cardboard. Perhaps it was on top of that. We couldn't see.
Marking normally is on the framework,
Side, yeah.
on the side for the container, but yes, you sometimes see it on the top. The other thing is that it's sometimes removable because there was a removable head drum for, as far as I saw. Other one, marked on the outside, correct. UN number written in it. Well, I'm pretty sure it will be environmentally hazardous, but because that's written over here. Again, you have all the information, but not as it should be. Yeah. This is correct, right size, and then proper shipping name, technical name, and it's marine pollutant. What are you doing? 3082, environmentally hazardous substance, yes. Claudia, you can have a look. Yeah, of course. And you're also looking for something, but in which book? What do you want to find? Sorry? Oh. Yeah, so is the proper shipment name correct? Did you check it? Yeah. Yeah? Not correct? What's wrong?
It should be the capital or capital.
That's what we discussed yesterday, I think day 4 yesterday. Is IMDG code is the proper shipping name in capital letters, but that is not mandatory on the documentation or on the packaging. But if you want to know what is the proper shipping name and what is the technical name, because this is the proper shipping name, And this is the technical name. Yeah. That's why the IMDG code is made. That in the IMDG code is written in capital letters, so that for you the distinction is clear. But it's not necessary to put it. It's recommended to do it, I agree. But especially on packaging, it's quite often in lowercase letters. Yeah, this is how you normally find it on the drums. Sometimes on the head, on the top side, sometimes, yeah. But, yeah, good for an exercise, of course. Tomorrow I'll ask you to tell me what kind of drum this is, but no. This one was a funny one. From Antwerp to Navashira. And I find it in Bangkok. What is it doing here? Yeah, if I look at it, it's ready 2 months, 3 months. So I wonder whether that was incorrectly delivered. But yeah.
It stayed in the package.
Yeah, it looked a little bit like it was sitting here already for a few months. It's just dirty and things like that. But then again, I didn't find any dangerous goods information on it, so I ignored it from that moment. But I thought it was fascinating. This one we had discussion on when we were there. UN 1950 2.1. UN 1950, what is that? Aerosols. And the funny thing is with aerosols, they are, at least in Europe, only allowed less than a liter. And if they're less than a liter, they also can be declared as limited quantities. But that's what I would expect basically, because that's easier. But it's not necessary, it's not mandatory.
And we checked it, perhaps they
So-
let you know.
So I asked, I took the container number, and we got the documentation. It's a little bit badly readable, but if I look at the planning, where the information is also, UN 1950 2.1, description is a little bit funny. Sporting products and waterproofer. So I still don't know what it is, but for an aerosol, as long as it's declared as an aerosol, yeah, it's acceptable. If they declare it as a flammable, yeah, a 2.1, then normally I would like to see why. Yeah, so what is the flammable product inside? Yeah, but for aerosol specifically, it's not necessary. So, my Thai language knowledge is not so big, so I couldn't understand, but what does this mean? Sorry? Yeah, but you use it also over here or not? No. No, it's a bit of a vague thing. I mean, in the UK or in Europe, we use it. But should we remove it if you send it to an area where you don't use it? In my opinion, just leave it on. It gives you some information. But it's maybe confusing for some people. But yeah, it means flammable liquid. Not so very flammable, because otherwise it would be 3.3. And the UN number is 1993. Also marine pollutant. This is on the heading, so there's no necessity to have a proper shipping name over there. So yeah, I think this, from this side at least, it was correct. This one, it was the end of the container, also a tank container. No proper shipping name here. So that's not good. Because on the side it should be. Yeah. Top next Bangkok. I have no clue what it means, but it's for sure not a proper shipping name. Yeah, so this one is wrong.
The other one said
This one you have,
Yes.
there is a sticker or an A4 basically on it with information. On the head, that's not necessary. This is wrong, of course, because this is a trade name. Yeah, it should be ethanol.
Yes.
And I'm interested in what kind of liquor it is, because then we can take a sample. The size, at least, of the proper shipping name is not big enough. Yeah, 65 millimeters. Here I found another one. This size is correct. The only thing is, combustible liquid is a US term. They use it in the United States, but in the IMDG code it's an unknown name. So, again, you have to go into your documentation to see whether there's a flash point above 60 degrees and it's coming from the United States, then it's okay. But then it's not dangerous, according to the normal regulations. If the flash point is below 60 degrees, it should have been flammable liquid anyways. And then the technical name between brackets. So, a few things are right, and a few things, That's the battery. Do we have another one?
I think like that. Let's check here. One here, Rob. Check this one.
Was it?
At the bottom, yes. Check.
Dat is goed. Yes. Yeah, another one. This is a bit old, but it is normally you have the white square where it's written in, but I don't. If you look at the example in 5.3, they normally have the white thing. I don't have a problem with it, but it means that you go to the printer of the labels to order it already like that. Well, if you have the white one, you can write it in yourself. Again, much too small. But the good thing is, you have the class, the UN number, marine pollutant, and the information at the same spot. So I'm not unhappy with it, but it's not right. What's right or wrong on this one? Is it right? Is it wrong? No, maybe not. The UN number you only put on a container with more than how many kilograms? Do you remember from earlier this week? Yes, 4,000. So, if they only put 2,000 in it, then this is correct. Yeah? It's a bit old then to use one like this, but it shows you that this class 3. And you won't expect it to have put in more than 4,000 kilograms, so that's why you have this kind of labels for placards. But, yeah, so it could be right, it could be wrong, we don't know for sure, you have to check the documentation. But if it's less than 4,000 kilograms, then for me it's acceptable. I'm a bit still unclear. This was a storage container of the port, or? So, it looks very nice, but this is not how it should be.
Unclear. There are more than one UN numbers. He explained us how it should be, you know?
Apart from the fact that one or two, no, this one is damaged and this one is damaged, minor detail, but I wouldn't, there shouldn't be all these UN, yeah, so this one should be on it, and the class 3 label itself without the UN number, and the class 8 and the class 9, but in principle without the UN numbers.
You mean
So, yeah,
for this how to correct? The class one will be first of the level. Class three.
remove this one, remove this one, remove this one, remove this one, and then put in a class 3 and a class 8 and a class 9 without UN numbers. What you also could do, maybe, make this black. Make this black. It's, again, I would leave it as this and would simply go back to the shipper and say next time do it correctly. Yeah. Check the documentation and based on that prepare yourself so that you know if something goes wrong that you know what to do. Yeah.
Too much information, unnecessary.
Yeah, it's too much, and at the same time it could confuse. It could be there is only 1 liter of paint in it, and then you expect with a fire that there is a lot of big fire going to happen, and it's not happening because there's nothing in it. Yeah, so it doesn't give you the right information. This one. It was in a shed. You didn't really went into it, but I did. Class 9, environmental hazardous. This UN number is environmental hazardous, so yeah. Class 9, packing group 3. I'm missing the technical name, so that is the one thing that is missing. And the second thing, what I don't understand is this. Overpack only for IDR. Oh. So for the IMSBC code, it's not an overpack. Sorry? Yeah. So it's not really worrying, but it's not correct again.
Red friend.
Sorry?
Red friend.
Great.
Yeah, well, that's allowed. That's allowed.
But it's not too much present use. This is a good example. Red friend.
Yeah. So almost all the dangerous goods that I looked at today, something is wrong. What does it say? It is not so easy, apparently. Yeah? Because if you produce this on a daily basis for maybe 5 years already, and you don't have these basic things correct, then I start wondering a little bit. Another one, wooden box. There was a box on it also. UN number, batteries, wet, non-spillable electric storage. UN number is correct. Copper shipper name is correct. It's a wooden crate. It's battery, so it's very good to have the arrows on it because otherwise they start leaking. This is an old type battery. Yeah. So, only question I have when I looked at it, how heavy it was. If it's more than 400 kilograms, 450 kilograms, it should have been on 2 sides and it was only marked on 1 side. That was a little bit of a grey one, but apart from that, again, I think it was quite okay.
And lithium battery or not?
Sorry?
Lithium battery.
This is not a lithium. This is an old battery, the one that you had in your car 20 years ago. A lead battery, basically, most probably. Yeah. Corrosive, class 8. So. This was roughly what I found, and what I didn't really check was the documentation. Yeah. If you look at the one documentation, we looked at this one over here. Here we could, it's a pity that I can't read it on the screen, but there's good information for another container here was clearly described. And this one I didn't see anything on the UN number, the copper shipping name whatsoever. So it might also be worthwhile to check a little bit more on the documentation from the board, what it is exactly reflecting. Because it was over here clear that it is dangerous goods, but I didn't see it here. But. Any questions? So, yeah.
If same like this we found have something wrong, what should we do? What should we do?
Well, that's one thing that I would like you to all to think about is what is the best, what's going to be the best approach. Yeah. If this would happen in the Netherlands and if they would find it, because we don't have many inspectors, but you get a fine. So they call in another company, they put in the right labels, and if there is, for example, there is no UN marking on the drums, the pine oil drums, for example, they would take them off, double check them, and then you have to put it in new drums. So you have to move the cargo, yeah? And all costs will be for the receiver or the sender. Yeah? And you would get a fine of 500 euros or 5,000 euros, depending on how dangerous they think it is. But yeah, it would not move before it was corrected. It's not always the most safest way of working, to my opinion. Yeah, because if you have a drum of 200 liters and you have to pump the cargo out of it into another drum which is approved, I think it's safer if the final destination is, let's say, 20 kilometers from here. I think it's safe to bring it over there. Yeah? But if you don't give a fine or if you don't give a strong warning, next week you have the same shipment. Yeah? And a month later you have the same shipment. So I think internally you should discuss how you are going to deal with it. First of all, the first thing what you need to do is inspect and see what's right and what is wrong. And then have a procedure in place, okay, what do we accept? Do we give a warning only? Or do we stop the cargo and say, okay, either we send it back, or we give a big fine, or we block the cargo, or we ask the receiver to come over and fix it. The problem is always, you have the same problem in the Netherlands. The cargo is coming, for example, from China. We can send a fine to China, it's not going to get paid most probably. Yeah? So that's not working. So we have, in the IMSBC code, a very small chapter, in chapter 1, we discussed the first name, that says infringements. So if you see a problem like this, and especially the pine oil one, I'm a bit worried about, the authorities should find out whether it's coming from China, then you send a message back to China, make a report, and say, this is what we found, and can you please take care that it's not going to happen again. So you do between the authorities, forget about the shipper. Yeah? Because if you have unapproved, non-approved packagings with a packing group 2 product, if it starts leaking and there's a chance it starts leaking, then you have a big problem. Yeah? Because then you have 200 liters of dangerous goods leaking in the next run. So. But it's one of the things that we'd like to, from this week's training, it's not only that you know how the IMDG code works, but you should also consider what to do if things are not in compliance. More questions? So who is now going to do container inspections and cargo inspections? Do we already have people who do it? Or are you going to appoint them today? So then we have a promotion today maybe? Yeah? So at the moment we don't inspect dangerous goods? Alright. Then we have something left, and that is called 1266, I think. Visual. I'll have to start it up. Safe transport, dangerous cargoes, and related activities in port areas. You will all get the soft copy file. Booklet is for sale at IMO, I guess. But I made a short presentation just to give you an idea what you can find in it. The purpose of it is, I heard during this bus trip that you're going to extend your port area, and then the booklet is very useful, gives you guidance on what to think about, what you can do and what you shouldn't do. So that's the title of the circular recommendation. The first was in 1973, and the latest one is from 2007, so it's old, but still very, very useful, and whether it needs to be reviewed, I'm not sure whether that's done or whether that's planned. But this is the page numbers are from the one that you will get, well, I guess tomorrow. How do you segregate the goods in the port? They give a lot of guidance on it. Training. Make sure who is that the responsibility in the port are clear. Well, I think that is quite well organized already over here. Yeah. General introduction, you have definitions again. I think that's in every booklet, and how to use it. What is dangerous cargo? Yeah, the oils, noxious liquids, gases in bulk, solid bulk cargoes. Enfin, you can read yourself. It's much more than only the IMDG code. Yeah, it is everything in your port area that you deal with, that you need to take into consideration. So you need to have a full overview of what's moving dangerous goods in your port area. Yeah. And based on that, it's the ship, it's the port, it's the people in the port, it's the environment, all of that you need to take care of. And in order to do that, and you have the documentation I saw this morning, you have a system in place so that you know what kind of dangerous goods you have. Yeah. You should be aware of the full thing. And that also relates again to what I just mentioned before, is do you have an inspection program in place, and if not, that might be worthwhile to consider. Definition of port authority. Could also be captain of the port. It is how you describe it in your own environment. The regulator authority could be local, could be country-wise. So I would say you must make it legal, and normally you do that first on a country level, and then you can go a level lower, and for each and every port area you can make the regulations. And this one is, again, what I mentioned earlier, you have to consider to have legislation in place that you can give a fine, worst case, to arrest somebody if it's necessary, if there are violations in relation to basis cargo. Yeah. But it's much more than only the cargo itself. Yeah. You have to consider about the building of the area where you store it, the transportation in and out of port. So items like the warehouses, the terminal area, the roads and rail, and in your case also the riverside. Yeah. Land use planning. If you want to extend your port, you have to consider, are the people living there? Do we have offices with people working there in relation to these goods? So, for example, I saw your tank station for your equipment, and then next to it reefer cargo. Well, if those reefers are live, I'm not so sure whether that's a good idea. But that is what you have. You make an overview of your whole port area, and based on that you must make a risk assessment. Yeah, and especially if you want to extend it, then you have to do that well in advance. An example in the circular, you make a drawing of your port area and then with different colors. Yeah, in this case, an example, blue is the water area, red is the ship shore interface, and of course you can use the color that you like, but that it is very clear from the map where items, where operations are allowed, where operations are not allowed. And in this case white, where basically which is outside the port area. Part 4 deals with training from different parties and what you should train. So what we quite often see is that in transport companies, in shipping lines, the higher the management, the less they think they need to be trained. But if the management is not aware of the risk, then of course there's a chance that the people below it also have no clue what they're doing. So that is quite well described over here, that the authorities should be trained, management of the companies involved should be trained, and each and every function basically is described over here. Security, well, we discussed that already earlier this week for on basis of the IMDG code and the IMSBC code, but there's much more to it. It's nice to say you need to be trained, but you have also what are the authorities doing in order to check whether the people are indeed trained, and if they are trained, are they still in compliance with? Do they indeed have a safety program, a security program for the storage of, for example, 2.1 as we've seen, or toxic gases? Yeah, so each and every role should be described and made clear that that is done. General, regulatory and the port authorities, who is doing what, who has the responsibilities. The ships, you don't control the ships itself, but when they carry dangerous cargo, they come into your area, so it should be described what are you going to do. That's partly port state control, partly the inspection of dangerous cargo, and in relation to that you also have all the shore installations. Okay, so here not much apart from the petrol station, but you may have in your shore, in your port area also tanks with oil, tanks with gas, and documentation of dangerous goods in packed form, supervision, information for the operational and emergency purposes. So what do you do if something goes wrong, when it starts leaking, when you have a fire? Well, you have a fire brigade in your port, and I understood within 3 to 5 minutes they can be anywhere where necessary. But do they then have all the information also to deal with a fire? That's described here over here as well. Outside the IMDG code and IMSBC code, liquid bulk. Do you have tankers coming in your port area? Don't think so, but anybody knows? Do you get oil tankers or gas tankers into your port? Or do they stay far away? Okay. If you have, then in part 9 at least, there's a description on what you should take into account for all handling. To have a safe way from all the areas, etc. But again, when we drove around, I didn't see something like it. Solid bulk cargoes, that's the IMSBC code as far as the ship is concerned. But in the supplement, you also have the blue code description on for the terminals, etc. And then it is spliced? I think so. Split into different risk for the products that you deal with. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a repetition of the IMSBC code, but it gives you a bit more for the shore-based emergency options what you need to do. Then you still have an amount of annexes, notification, dealing with explosives in the port area, radioactive materials. Well, you have prohibited that, so that's an easy job over here, but not in Lamsjebang. And then safety requirements for carrying out hot works. I mean, if a ship comes in, they have to, well, I hope that you have the regulation that they should ask permission to do hot works. Yeah. But in your port yourself, you also have hot works for repairs. And then, of course, you have to have a procedure in place to make sure that it's safe. Bunkering, is that happening in this port, in Bangkok port? Yeah? Well, Annex 5 gives you then some guidance on it. I mean, you might well have it in place. And then Annex 7 is a repeated of the IMSBC code, the IMDG code, on all fumigations. And then you have a list of codes and guides which you can also use to set up your port area. Yeah, the booklet or the circular is 160 or so much pages. So if you were involved in it, you need to read the whole document, so I think what's relevant for you. Yeah, this will give us a handout tomorrow. Questions?
Yeah. Just want to have some time. But you were today in the warehouse in the port. Who was the first time who was around the port? Who was there? The Angeles goods. Were you all aware of this warehouse? Yeah? So you know, I want to give you a question, and I want you to answer. Let's talk. You have seen what happened in the Tianjin port. The explosion, the big explosion. It was 7 years ago, 4 years ago. It was happening in Beirut. Yeah? Or you are working for the port authority or for the marine environment, marine department. Yeah? What you thought when you saw what happened in Beirut? What was your thinking? If you are working for the port authority and for the marine department, the port of Beirut exploded and disappeared. What you thought about it? What you feeling? Have you talked to your boss and said, "You see what happened"? Say it. I mean, what you thought about it?
My thought, I think, is very bad to happen, and for that case, maybe we can use for to find a way how to prevention that happen in the platform.
Because no, that's good. It's a part of thinking like poor people because the houses are blown to the no, but when that happened. The member states at IMO, they start calling and sending messages and saying, what should we do? What is this regulated? And is this? It's just this book. But this is a recommendation. I was talking about this the other day. It's just a recommendation because you cannot make it mandatory for many reasons. One of them because all the ports are different. So you have to have the freedom to organize your port depending on your capacity, depending on the space you have, depending on your needs. But all the recommendations are here. As the captain mentioned, storage is not included here. They are talking about warehouses, but as an infrastructure. They are giving you some advices where to set the storage within the port. It should be away from this, from the other. Today, for example, I noticed, someone told me, the warehouse was beside the patio of empty containers because it's convenient and it's one of the recommendations here. Yeah? But the storage, one point for you to keep in mind. In the recommendations, they talk about keeping. Keeping is not the storage. Keeping, it means because you have a cargo that is traveling from A to B and is passing by road, by rail, by boats, by road, by rail, etc. When it passes to the port, all this is a chain of transport. When it passes to the port, it has to stay for a short period of time. And this is keeping. You are keeping it because it's going to continue. It's like when you fly to one place and you have to change the airplane. They are keeping you for a while in the airport. You are not living there. It's the same with the cargo. You are keeping it and it's part of the handling of the cargo within the chain of transport. Yeah? When it is in storage, it's different because the storage the cargo is kept for an undetermined period of time. And when that happens, you have to have procedures in place. What to do? What to do with this? Is it the warehouse the best place to keep it, to have it? To keep it or to storage? Is it the best place? You have to have some procedures, and the procedures and advice are here. I am sure that you have it. I haven't seen it, but I am sure you have it. Just keep an eye on this because all you are involved in this. And any of you can be the solution of something that is lacking or something that can be improved. But this is the response. This is the book. And just think about it. Don't forget about this. You are keeping and you are storing the product. Also, what the captain mentioned. What you do if you find something? You ask. Who asked? What can we do if we find something wrong? Like you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful, and you have to have an open mind to see who is the sender, who is the receiver. As he said, you send the file to China, then you sit down and you wait. You sit down and you wait. Yeah, because if you are very how can we call this? Very determined. You say, I'm going to stop this cargo. You may have this cargo for years in your warehouse, and then you are not keeping it. You are storing this cargo because you are detaining the cargo, and it happens that not the receiver and the sender, they don't care about the cargo. Then you have a problem. Someone told me that you have some regulations to dispose of cargo. So that's why I know and I understand that you have something related to this. You have your local regulations that after a certain period of time, if the sender and the receiver they don't dispose of the cargo, you dispose it. And you may have some procedures also to dispose of it. Yeah? But think about it because when the explosion happened in Beirut, then everybody wanted to react and everybody wanted to take action.